All right ครับ so everyone ครับ so right now we have the presentation from James Kaewanan นะครับ James if you're ready you may start your presentation นะครับ right now James just like come with his supervisor Mr. Ulrich Zandel van Brackel from Waterways Company นะครับ James spent his time in doing his cooperative education with Waterways Company ครับ so James welcome I just like send the presentation to you ครับ so you may start.
Can you see my screen ครับ
Yes.
Yes.
Now.
Me.
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. My name is James Kaewanan, and I'm presenting my cooperative education experience. I'll start by introducing the company, which is Yindi. Yindi is a startup registered under its parent company, Waterways, and it was established in 2020 in Bangkok, Thailand. And Yindi's vision is to achieve an eco-friendly and sustainable future by decreasing the amount of food waste produced in Thailand. To do this, Yindi provides a service similar to Grab or Lineman that connects customers with restaurants, grocery stores, and cafes to provide surplus foods or foods that were not able to be sold at the end of the day. And this service comes in the form of the Yindi application, which allows customers to order food and surplus products at a 50% discount. And due to the nature of surplus foods, their business model comes in the form of a surprise box, which is a box or package with randomly selected food items from their respective store. It is important to note that these food items are perfectly edible. It is just that the restaurant was unable to sell all of their stock at the end of the day. And so the surprise box it adds some fun to the food rescuing process to excite customers, and the 50% discount also encourages customers to make further purchases. And so the process for ordering on the Yindi application is as follows. First, you browse the meals and offers you would like to have. And second, you reserve the meals for delivery time or pickup. And third, you receive the surprise box, and last, you enjoy your meal. And so my internship at Yindi started on August 17th, 2021, and concluded on January 9th, 2022, totaling about 5 to 6 months. I applied as a full stack developer as I want to get experience for building complete applications and software, as that is a career path I want to pursue in the future. I work in the tech department, although I work closely as well with other departments and team members, as this is a startup, so my responsibilities are large in scope, and communication with other departments is a must in order to work efficiently. And let me introduce you to the team. My team members are as follows, with Kun Louis as the Chief Executive Officer of the company, Kun Ulrich as the Chief Technologies Officer, and with me working as part of his team as a full stack intern. Then we have Kun Mahima as the Chief Marketing Officer, Kun Julian as the Business Developer, and finally Kun Gao as the Head of Customer Service along with her team. And as previously mentioned, my mentor is Kun Ulrich, who is also the Chief Technologies Officer. And before I talk about my task, I have been given permission to talk about Yindi's system architecture. So I'd like to introduce that to you before talking about my task, because I think that'll make understanding my task a bit easier. And so firstly, the Yindi architecture is split up into two environments, the development and the production environment. The development environment, which is on the left-hand side, is where all the changes and updates are made to the application prior to release. And the production environment, which is on the right-hand side, is where updates and changes are released to the public for testing or usage. As you can see, in the production environment is divided into two sub-environments called staging and production. Staging is where final tests are performed for the rest of the Yindi team. And the production environment is the part where the pushes are actually made to the public for customers to see and use. Within each environment, the application is set up into 3 layers. The database layer, which is at the bottom, is hosted by MongoDB. Above that is the content management layer hosted in Strapi. This is where data for the application, such as images or store descriptions, can be interacted with. And then above that layer is where the application is stored, and it's built using Nuxt.js for the backend and Vue.js for the front end. All this structure is housed in a container using Kubernetes and is routed using OpenSense, which is a firewall. Secondly, the Yindi environment is divided into 3 separate applications. First, Yindi app, which is the client application built for Android, iOS, and browser platforms. This is a service that the customer can interact with, and it's a progressive web application. Next is business.yindi.app, which is the business application for stores to register and adjust their stocks and sales to the client application. Thirdly is the operations.yindi.app. It's a Laravel-based application created for the operations team to process deliveries and notifications to Yindi's business partners. And it's connected to a MySQL database. And finally, manage.yindi.app is the content management system, which is Strappy, and is used to input or manage details relating to stores, meals, and so on. And it's connected by REST APIs to the operations app in order for the operations team to manage data. And some tools and libraries which I worked with are Nuxt.js, MongoDB for the backend, Strappy for the content management system, Vue.js for the front end, and LXD or LXC for containers, which I will describe further along in the presentation. So let's discuss about my tasks. Here's a brief explanation of how I get assigned my tasks. First, the tasks are issued through GitLab, which is our development ops platform. Generally, my tasks come from my CEO, but other members of the team can set me tasks as well. In addition, if there are already existing tasks that I can help with, I can action those without having to be assigned to them. Once I have a task I need to work on, I would change the status of the tickets to either acknowledged, in progress, review, etc., depending on the progress of the ticket. When I acknowledge the task, I create a new branch in the repository that is specific for this patch or update. Then I'll action those tasks and implement them and then test them to ensure it works or meets the requirements of the ticket. Once done, I submit it to testing for the CTO or CEO or anyone who issued the task to me. And once the testing has been confirmed, then I commit and push the update to the appropriate branch and create a merge request to the dev branch. The ticket is completed when the merge request is approved by my CTO. And so these tickets can be assigned to me using mainly GitLab, which is the platform for the tech team. And Asana is the platform for the business team. They can also assign me tickets through there. So my tasks are divided to two categories: run the business task and change the business task. We'll start with run the business, which is RTB. RTB task consists of tasks that support the business and its services. Some examples of RTB tasks that I've done are data handling and migration, tech support for the team, as in teaching them how to use tools developed by the tech team. For example, things like how to send ticket requests on GitLab, and user or store data login creations for Yindi.app and business.yindi.app. Firstly, one of my RTB tasks is data migration, which is migrating data from the old legacy database to the new database. I did this by using queries and mutations via GraphQL and then changing those mutations to curl commands to input them into the content management system. Data that I've worked on are things like store data, as in names, description, address, meals data, such as names, description, and pricing, and user reviews and star ratings. So this is where I write and test out queries and mutations with GraphQL. Once the queries and mutations are written, I click the copy curl button to get the commands, which I can then work with in the terminal. Another RTB task I worked on is tech support. It was mostly communicating with the business team to create meals and stores on the content management system, as well as user logins for the business client. Occasionally, I had to export data sheets to the business team. The same process as data migration was applied using GraphQL and curl. Additionally, I had to use JQ, which is a tool to manipulate and format the JSON data, which curl produces, to make it into a readable Excel format for the business team to use. Lastly, for the RTB tasks, I worked on user store creation, which is using Strappy, the content management system. I worked closely with the business team on this one to get information regarding the stores and the users and ensuring that the information inputted is the correct information. And so this is the platform which I worked for the user store creation. The process would be to create a new entry and add the relevant information. For user creation, I would also need to create a universally unique identifier, or UUID, which is specific for that user, which I've done using command lines. So what I've learned from RTB tests, I've learned a lot. Most of these assignments help me learn about general business practices, such as communication, organization, ticket management, deadlines, and so on. And also important things like the need for the business team and what is required for the business team to operate effectively. Other knowledge I have gained are in learning the advantages and disadvantages of different data storage solutions like relational database management systems or content management systems. Learning GraphQL, curl, and JQ are also tools that I've never used before, and now I can see the importance of using those tools. And SQL, which I've learned before, but now I've used in a realistic and a more practical scenario. Now on to change the business task, or CTB. These are regarding things that can change or add to the way the Indie services worked. For some examples of the tasks I worked on are creating error pages, such as the 404 or 500 error pages, implementing translations and location-based functionality, UI changes and bug fixes, management and monitoring report project, which is one of the more major projects I've worked on, and setting up Linux containers. The first task that I was assigned to was creating an error page. For this task, I worked closely with the graphic designer of the team, Kun Snow, and I used Vue.js and HTML and JavaScript to accomplish this task. Here is an example of the error page that I made. It depicts the error number and the message, as well as the buttons to contact the customer service if needed. A minor CTB task that I did was translations. For this, I worked on the source code, adding translations for both English and Thai. This was an ongoing task throughout my internship, as there was also some translations that are needed or some that don't sound right in Thai. UI patches and bug fixes were another task I had to accomplish. These tasks were assigned through GitLab, and I worked on the source code with Vue.js. The main UI that I worked on was the payment and order summary pages. As well, with these bug fixes and patches, I worked with customer service in order to identify and report any bugs, as well as fixing the ones that I can. So these are some examples of the pages that I worked on. These are the payments and order summary pages, and there are information such as order number, bank transfer account order summary, a map, and line contact, and a commitment badge. Lastly, I worked on the Management Monitoring and Reporting Project, or MMR. This application is an application that's built from the ground up to monitor the status of each Yindi system. For this, I worked closely with the CTO to research possible technologies like Heroku for cloud hosting or RabbitMQ for communication protocols. For this task, I also had the opportunity to write code for CRUD APIs to manage communication in the backend. Another task that's relating to MMR was setting up LXC and LXC containers on Linux. LXC/LXC is similar to Docker in a sense that it's a virtualization tool that can house your applications in the cloud. For this one, I received specialized hardware in which I was to set up a virtual environment to host the MMR project. I had to do a lot of shell scripting and writing recipes for LXD, which are instruction scripts that had to be run every time the container started. You can see on the right is an image. This is not the image from Yindi. It's something similar that I found because I don't think using the actual image is good for privacy and security reasons. So here are instances of containers that are set up to be used for virtualization. So from CTB tasks, I have learned lots of coding skills, especially in HTML and JavaScript, as well as additional skills like shell scripting, and I have become more fluent in using Git as a result. Aside from practical skills, I also learned some things about communication protocols and APIs, as well as how containerization works. And due to the translation tasks that I received, I have also improved a lot in my Thai. The last thing which I'll talk about is team activities. Being in a startup is not about hard work, it's also about having fun. And so Yindi team activities are themed around being eco-friendly and saving the planet. And I'll start off with talking about maybe the most boring team activity, which are meetings. Throughout the week are some meetings. Some meetings can be ad hoc, but generally I have 3 confirmed meetings throughout the week. The first is a Yindi team coffee chat on Monday, 9:30 to 10 a.m. This is just a casual meeting for the team to catch up on each other and talk about how our weekends have been. The next meeting, which is for the tech team, is a weekly session from 10 a.m. onwards. There is no real ending time. It can vary because sometimes we can go throughout the whole day. We work on something together, and sometimes it can be a quick meeting where we can just discuss weekly or daily priorities and tasks. The last meeting is on Thursday, which is the Yindi afternoon team from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. This meeting is for the whole team, and we discuss weekly reports, tech and business updates, and weekly priorities, and so on. For the Yindi team meetings, they are conducted through Google Meet, which is our primary platform, while for tech meetings, tech sessions, it's conducted through Discord. A more fun activity that I worked on I participated on is the Climate Fresk workshop. It is an online workshop discussing climate change and how we can help mitigate the problem. In this workshop, we did many activities like linking pictures and creating collages, as well as discussing about ways to fight climate change. Here is an example of a climate fresk we've made. In the upper half, you can see the collage of causes and effects for climate change, and the bottom half is the discussion as we had that we had for climate change and ways we can improve our carbon footprint. And the whole climate fresk activity was fun and very eye-opening. It definitely helped spread awareness for me personally because I didn't really know a lot about climate change. And so I gained a lot of information about this topic as a result. Another big activity is a tree planting charity event in which the team went to a mangrove conservation center with the goal of planting 500 trees. Unfortunately, I was unable to attend this event due to COVID concerns, but here are some pictures of the event. I heard from my team that the event was very tiring and the weather was hot, but ultimately it was very rewarding in the end as it helped spread awareness amongst the Yindi social media community. And so some final remarks. I am incredibly grateful to have the opportunity to become part of Yindi for the duration of my cooperative education. It has been really fun and a great honor to have gained such positive experience and to expand my knowledge and skill set by working closely with every department of the Yindi team. If you happen to have any interest in Yindi and want to help in fighting food waste, then I encourage you to install their app on Google Play or the App Store. And this was my presentation regarding my cooperative education at Yindi. And thank you very much for listening.